Hey,
Hello. Great.
I'm spying your kits in the background. Is that a Roland
Yeah, there's a Roland over here, which is
V drums?
yeah, a TD10 or TD20 or whatever that is, and um, and then there's like a DW over there, actually, yeah, a cherrywood kit, and there's
Excellent.
downstairs are there are more kits and other stuff there.
Cool. I got a DW TD12 in my basement. I get down there and play it a lot.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, yeah, fantastic.
So, and you're in San Diego?
I'm in like Elsinore, which is kind of in the middle of San Diego and Los Angeles.
Gotcha. All right. How long have you been out there?
About like 10 years
All right.
almost. Yeah, no, 10 years pretty much. Yeah.
Are you a full Southern California guy now? Are you a?
Oh, fully. Yeah, absolutely. You're in the Midwest, or what I hear,
I'm in
right?
Chicago. Yeah.
Chicago. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. How's the situation in Chicago?
It could be better, it could be worse, I suppose. I think overall we're doing okay, but
Good.
I miss live music a lot.
Yeah, I know, right? We always in Chicago we used to play like a lot of what was it, Park West, right?
Park West, yeah.
Uh and then obviously Reggie's and Martyrs, right? You know, those
Yeah, I'm
places.
trying to remember where I saw you. I guess it
And
was
the
at Park West. I
we
saw you with Stephen Wilson.
Park West with Stephen Wilson, and I played the Regency Theater, if that's the right, is it called that? Yeah, with Joe Satriani.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
Reggie's is like always like the place where we play with
Yeah,
aristocrats and the kind of bands like more. Yeah,
yeah, Reggie's is great.
yeah, yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
Well, I'm kind of curious. Tell me a little bit about this new project and how it came together. I know that I think Randy guessed it on My Sister, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Randy actually, well, the thing is like we met first uh, through a mutual friend, Dave Kersner from the band In Continuum.
Okay.
And so he invited us over to play on his album or albums actually, and then he also asked if we would like to be part of the live band for Progstock, and uh, and then furthermore, actually we did the Cruise to the Edge, later
Oh
on,
yeah, yeah, yeah. The Yes thing.
like the
Excellent.
Yes thing, and that's where we really connected, and it was great, and we just had instantly a great chemistry, Randy and I. We just kind of locked very well together, we just had like, this really cool musical relationship, everything felt really tight and just like really we were pulling on the same strings, it was like, it felt very locked. And then we had like a bunch of whiskeys and drinks and a good time and discussed our, mutual musical interests and surprisingly common things, and like for us, basically, record our record collection goes like into kind of different areas, that most prog fans, for example, wouldn't expect us to go,
Right.
because,
What were some of those commonalities?
Public Image Limited, for example, like
Nice.
Bill.
I just watched a documentary about them the other night.
Oh no way, I want to see that.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Oh my gosh, I gotta look that up.
It's called The Public Image is Rotten. And so it's all about John Lydon and how he's kind of kept this crazy caravan of musicians going for so long and all the
Oh my,
changes they've
I
gone through.
gotta watch that. Yeah, but stuff like that, for example, or Gary Newman and Two Bay Army,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
these kind of things. And so, but we were actually then, obviously it's like the Police, Led Zeppelin, Queen, Frank Zappa, this kind of stuff, But yeah, we were actually at some point, Randy actually wrote me and asked if I would be interested in playing on one of his solo albums.
Hmm.
And I did, and I immediately connected with the songs very well. I thought like, hey, this is really well written stuff, and I really like playing this. And then I invited him to kind of to guest, actually, to play on my sister on this album. And so he did on 2 tracks and also did vocals, some guitars, and then it was great. And then well, next thing we know was like Randy goes like, hey, how about we do a solo record together, because we could send each other songs. And I was like, you know what, that sounds actually like a pretty good idea. And yeah, and here we are releasing
I
it
mean,
out.
you've collaborated with a lot of different musicians over the years. I mean, like tons and tons, even just recently. How does Randy distinguish himself as a collaborator and a composer, a partner?
Well, with Randy, it's like, see, when I do like collaborations, for example, with Tony Levin and Jordan Rudess, or with the Aristocrats, well, that's not really it is a collaboration, but it's a band, obviously the
Right.
Aristocrats. But usually you easily can get like, you know, the too many cooks in the kitchen syndrome if you have a band with, for example, 4 people or more or something like that. With a trio, it's kind of overviewable, but with a duo, it is just very convenient, especially if you kind of share same musical interests. It just goes like this, like quickly. There's never really
Right.
a moment where Randy delivered something for my songs, or hopefully vice versa as well, where nobody was happy with each other's performance or also with the musical input. It was just like, wow, yeah, I would have done sort of the same thing. That's exactly what I envisioned, you know, and vice versa. So we got to pretty much to good results, and so very, very pleased with that. So the working relationship is just like, you know, very seamless, you know, and
And you
smooth.
guys are basically like sending stems back and forth and building
Yeah,
on song ideas.
absolutely. Sending demos, and then like, you know, entire songs sometimes, and then looking for input, and then as soon as, you know, and then Randy would go like, cool, send me stems over, or vice versa, and then I kind of, you know, add something, maybe take something out from the other stuff that was already there, or come up with new parts sometimes. So we
Mhm.
also have like songs where we like really collaborate, and yeah, that is how that works. Yeah.
And are you on, you're on the composition side as far as like bass and guitar as well as drums on this project?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We well, on this album, which is coming out soon now, we wrote each separately songs, like completely brought songs to the table. So there are like
Oh, okay, cool.
Randy McStine songs, and there are Marco Minnemann songs. And then there are like, you know, 2 tracks where we really collaborate that are credited, you know, with both of our names.
Okay,
Like,
now I'm dying to know which ones are which.
okay, well, Randy wrote, for example, Program, Your Offenses, Fly, uh, Top of the Bucket, and maybe I'm forgetting something right now, but those are some of Randy's songs.
All right.
My songs are Katrina, Tear the Walls Down, Voyager, and
Cool.
then also Falling from Grace, which is mainly my song. And Randy has a credit there too, because, you know, he changed like some vocal lines towards the end. And
Okay.
then there's a song called The Closer, which we also both co-wrote. I wrote the chorus and the lyrics,
Yeah.
and he wrote the verses and the lyrics for that. So
You
we
know,
both
speaking of that
wrote
song,
lyrics and music and lyrics together
oh wow, cool. Okay. So
on that
real collaboration right
on
down to
that song.
nuts and bolts.
Closer is fully a collaboration. Yeah.
I was wondering with that song and the and Voyager, if those were meant to be kind of like a back-to-back duo of songs that really the one flows into the other. I
Yeah.
mean, there's silence, but it almost feels like it's picking up with a heavier, grinding version of a theme that you leave off with in the closer.
It is true. It is true. We wanted to kind of have a little, you know, after those whole kind of, you know, really compact and, you know, songs kicked in, and a lot of it is very kind of rock and you know, like and some hard rock metal elements in there too, and some punk elements as well, you know, and but they're like, you know, songs, you know, you can play them actually on pop radio stations or on metal radio stations. I guess, you know, they would probably do, you know, really fit. But the closer before Voyager, because Voyager is definitely one of the hardest songs on the album, like from the, you know, musical attitude speaking. And I guess, you know, the closer is like a little preparation for that you kind of have like a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of a gap. So, you know,
Yeah,
that
it's a little breather before this
absolutely.
crushing density of Voyager comes in. I feel like Voyager takes everything that's happened before it and it's kind of all fusing together in that song.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, that was, you know, they're very well observed actually from you, because we did put thought into that. Yeah.
Cool. Well, as long as we're talking about the album, how about let's talk about some of the other songs. I mean, I sort of sense that maybe Your Offenses would be kind of a single on that record. It's one of
Yeah,
the sort of more overtly accessible
absolutely.
songs.
Yeah, I guess that's, yeah, Your Offenses and Program are really, you know, the hits, you know, you know
Yeah.
what I mean, like the radio friendly, you know, songs. And I really enjoyed it, you know, because it reminds me more like, you know, of the early Police or the Knack or something like that, you know,
Hmm.
really compact, accessible songs, but like with musicianship, you know, married to that. So yeah, and I think, you know, those are actually good songs to really, well, Your Offenses was just released as the video, and yeah.
Right.
Uh-huh.
You had mentioned Gary Newman earlier. You know, when I listen to Program, that has like this dystopian quality that kind of reminded me of Gary Newman, like a song like Metal. And it's not so much like exactly how it sounds, it's more the theme of it. Like it starts off with this section that's almost like you're in a factory
Yeah.
stamping out artificial beings or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I guess, this is really, and that counts for Randy and myself, our roots, kind of, totally show, this is kind of stuff, that we, and rightfully, as you said that, that inspires us. And it kind of, has exactly that vibe. Like, I mean, Kraftwerk, we're starting this kind of thing first with the Man Machine, this kind of things. And Gary Newman sort of married it to alternative punk, which later, or like even like a little bit of emo and stuff like that in it, but like in a different way. It's all more industrial, I would kind of say. So Gary Newman was basically the template for what later on became bands like, Nine Inch Nails, for example. And I know that Trent Reznor is a huge fan of Gary Newman, and he even kind of had him on, or they did something together, I guess, Cars or something like that. And Trent Reznor was playing tambourine then and joining in and stuff. Yeah. So Gary Newman has actually more weight, to the scene that people sometimes believe, Yeah.
It kills me kind of. I think that he gets maligned as this like one-hit wonder with Cars, but what an incredible artist. And if you see him live, he's just an amazing performer. And he absolutely is like this godfather of industrial music.
Absolutely. And especially when you listen, I remember when my father, my parents are huge music lovers. And I remember when they had like, what's it called? Down in the Park, the first Two Boy Army song, album. Well, there was like one before, but then there was the one with Down in the Park, and then there was what else? Our Friends Electric. That song is on the first one. Those are really cool songs.
Great
so
songs.
Actually, Gary Newman had actually kind of more stuff, but Cars was the big hit actually overall. Yeah, true. No, he's the opposite of a one-hit wonder.
No, and he keeps going. He's got such a deep catalog. Every new record, something worth listening to. And anyway.
Oh, cool. That's good to know. I'm gonna do some investigation there.
To be careful not to get off on a Gary Newman tangent there.
Yeah, right.
I share your appreciation for him.
Oh, cool.
And listen to this record. Like I mentioned, like the song like Your Offense Is Accessible, I think Activate's another one of those.
Yes.
That, like, your first go through or second go through in the record, those are the songs that jump forward and say like, here are some anthemic songs that you can really, rock out to. Tell me a little bit about Activate.
Well, Activate is kind of more a song that is, that is kind of the closest to the prog world on that album, I think. That's a song by Randy. And Activate has like, multiple parts. It has funky stuff. It has rock stuff. It has like, the little proggy midsection or, kind of
absolutely.
Stuff. So I guess it's kind of, a pretty diverse song that showcases more the musicianship, side actually of the band. And so that's all I have to say to that, I guess.
No, I love that middle section in 7. It's I love when you can go into an odd signature like that, but it flows and it doesn't feel like
thanks, man.
You're trying to make everyone make mental calculations of a time.
Yeah, I like when I kind of approach odd meter sections. I just don't want to kind of bombard people with kind of, hey, look what we're doing. I want to make them feel good. I want to kind of make them feel like, hey, look, you can also dance to this 7 or to this 9, whatever, because the way you place your hits or phrases, you can make it sound good and sound musical instead of sounding calculated. Right. That's the worst that can happen, I think.
And I got to say, one of the things that I really enjoy as a drummer is that you play this. You kind of hint at a straight time at the end of it and straighten it out a little bit, and that's a really fun way to take the same figure and say, okay, now hear it this way.
Yeah. No, thanks for noticing that. Yeah, true. Exactly. It has like it becomes like a driving pattern towards the end, introducing the next pattern again, going back to it. And a lot of ghost notes, all these kind of things, so that which sort of create a flow, right? So,
Well, speaking of that, as a drummer, like, how do you approach composing drum parts? What are some of the priorities that you have in mind when you're listening through to a track the first time and thinking what you're going to add to it rhythmically?
Well, it's a strange thing with the drums because I just let it flow naturally, and then I kind of pick out the best ideas, So I play through a few times, and then I kind of, get some ideas, and then I just pick the patterns that I like and go like, oh, this could be cool. And then I record it, and then I listen back, and I go like, maybe I should play the hi-hat a little straighter, or maybe more ghost notes over here, maybe a more composed kick drum pattern. Those are things I kind of, you know, really uh, that I'm really checking out. If they get married to like the bass or the guitar part, what is more important, the guitar part in that song, or is it more bass driven? And that's what I kind of try to sit on top of. And then kind of getting out of the way, obviously, of vocal lines, you know, which is important, or guitar fills. Either way, kind of accenting the guitar fills along with the guitar, or completely staying out of it, but hardly ever playing against it, because that's when it becomes a jam, you know.
Right.
Which sometimes can be cool, you know. But yeah, so I kind of really just sit there, and when the song speaks to me, then ideas come pretty fast, and I go like, okay, I could do this, for example, you know. Yeah.
And does that work differently when Randy's giving you a song as opposed to when you're composing it from scratch?
Yeah, well, it has to work differently, obviously, because, you know, Randy, when he comes up with a riff, it's not a riff that I wrote then. And then I kind of, you know, just hop on top and think as a drummer and just think like, cool. Okay, let's kind of complement the thing. Let's see. And again, you know, listening to what happens in the song, accenting the right way, the right things when necessary, and staying out of the way when necessary also. And but with Randy, you know, I can feel where he's going and what kind of attitude of the song he wants and what kind of style he's looking for. So that usually goes like, you know, pretty uncomplicated, you know, it just goes pretty quick. And also he comes up with pre-programmed patterns so that I know what he's looking for. And then, you know, I sort of try to complement that and modify certain patterns, or kind of erase some patterns completely and go like, hey, how about this, you know?
You're not getting just a click. You're getting some idea from him how he envisions a drum part.
Absolutely. And not always, but mostly. Like recently he just sends like over like guitar riffs sometimes, and I go like, I could hear this, and then he comes back and goes like, oh, this is kind of cool. Well, maybe I can do this then on top. So that is obviously that's a great way of writing too. But when I kind of, you know, play here like guitar, and then I always my instruments next to me here in the studio, I just come up with a riff or with like a piano thing or whatnot, and then I think about the drums. I rarely compose like with the drums first. It sometimes may happen when I just sit downstairs in the room there and I just you know, mess around a little bit, and then I go like, oh, this is a cool groove, let's see. And then I kind of think like, the bass could do this on top, or I hear a guitar part. So this happens too. But mostly I come up with riffs. I kind of, you know, just, you know, mess around with the guitar a little bit, sit in the living room, you know, and have a glass of wine with it, and maybe watch something or not, or just hang around. And then all of a sudden I go like, oh, this is a cool riff. And then I hear a melody and I go like, and I already kind of start singing it along, and I go like, cool. All right, this is going to be a song, you know? Yeah.
Cool. And then you start dropping stuff into a Pro Tools kind of thing to get an idea of building?
Absolutely. I'm a Steinberg endorser, and I love working with Cubase, which is Steinberg.
Yeah.
And so I have Cubase. They're all good, you know, if you use like, you know, Pro Tools, Logic, or Cubase, and it's fine. Well, you know, they're all great. And yeah, so that's what I do, and then I kind of elaborated. I rarely do demos, I gotta say. I pretty much have my ideas as complete that I kind of want to track instantly. So what you hear on the album, for example, or most of my albums, are not demos. They're instantly kind of, I have the ideas and go like, cool, and then I'll kind of translate them. I may go back a few months later when the album is done, revisit the songs and go like, this could be redone, replaced, or I hear a different part. But in general, most of the stuff you hear are pretty much from the early stage of writing the song straight, you know, to the album.
Right on. Now, have you and Randy gotten together in person and jammed at this point, or is it all through online files?
Yes, that album was recorded as online files, absolutely. But we know each other, and we did get together and played on stage. And it is not like that is just a completely, you know, that this is an online marriage or something, you know. But yeah, it wasn't Tinder, you know. So, but so we know how we lock, you know, and how we work together. But the album itself, the McStine Minnemann album, is pretty much done from East Coast to West Coast.
That's awesome.
Online, yeah. But it feels organic. That's a good thing.
Do you imagine, I mean, given that situation, that you could put together at some point a band and tour this thing?
Yeah, we are thinking about this. Absolutely. So obviously, if this pandemic situation eases out soon enough, then we will consider going out on the road with this and start playing shows. Right now, obviously, we keep actually writing on songs. We're already preparing the second album, believe it or not. And the first one, well, the debut album is going to come out actually on July 3rd. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah. So it's not even out yet, but we're already planning for the next album. We're already collecting material. And so I think by the end of the year or early next year, or whenever it's going to happen, we might be able to have a follow-up album already. And then we have enough song material to really do proper shows. So
That's awesome.
so that's a good thing that comes out of this. I mean, yeah, pandemic is never a good thing, but it's you make it the best possible how to deal with it at home.
Sure. And then the question will be, how many other musicians will you have to bring to carry off this incredibly dense recording?
Yeah, you know what? I don't think actually that we need that many, because Randy already plays great guitar and sings fantastically. So he does already
Right.
two jobs. Yeah, I play drums. I could do like a little keyboards behind that as well, but in certain parts. But I think if we have like someone who sings and plays keyboards and bass or something, like a jack of all trades, then we would be a trio or a quartet if we have like, somebody who plays an additional guitar or vocals,
Right.
So yeah, we're envisioning something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Excellent. Can't wait.
Oh, thank you.
Hoping that comes off. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I hope we all get back to live music really soon. But
My, oh my,
when
unbelievable.
we
Right?
do, you're going to have about 3 different tours you're going to have to go on.
Yeah, true. I know it's gonna be interesting. The Aristocrats, right? That is definitely still not said and done. That we still need to do Asia and then Latin America.
Yeah. Didn't you guys have a couple of tours ready to go and postponed because of all of this?
Yeah. We did the North American leg, so we did basically, and also Mexico. So we did the United States, we did Canada, we did Mexico, then we did all over Europe, then also the UK, and now we're planning Asia, Southeast Asia, and then Latin America. So those are the things. These 3 last things I said, that those were the ones that had to get postponed, unfortunately.
Right. Gotcha.
But we're working on it, and I hope by the end of the year or next year, these things are going to happen. Yeah.
Say this album. I'm kind of an instrumental listener first.
Yeah.
As a drummer and a musician, I kind of just hear the instruments first, and I get to the lyrics little by little as I go through. But what do you see are lyrical themes within this record?
Well, it's very interesting, from Randy and from my perspective. Well, if you listen to the program, that's obviously actually about computer technology and about Siri and how far you can take it.
Right.
Then you have like your offenses, which is like just a personal kind of social thing being addressed. Songs of Mine, or well, Top of the Bucket List actually, which is eerily close to what we just have going on right now. With the pandemic and the other situation that we just had actually with the with the whole riots and everything like that, and speaking up about what needs to be said. And so those are like those were topics where we thought like, man, we really are right now into dark times, and so Top of the Bucket fits eerily into this whole subject of matter. Obviously it wasn't aimed at that, but it was written earlier. But my songs, for example, Katrina, that's a very dark song, which is more like a cinematic topic. I wrote this actually about, well, La Katrina is the icon of the Day of the Dead in, yeah, exactly. In
I've got one around here somewhere.
You do? Yeah. Oh, cool. Because a lot of people don't know what it is, Dia de Muertos. Dia de Muertos is like the festivity which derived from 1920 or something like that, where a caricaturist aimed actually at the Renaissance, or what that happened like in France, like in the 18th century, and then Mexico tried to kind of sort of be posh and kind of dress people up like that. But then this guy said like, hang on, you guys don't have money. How do you look like? And basically painted a skeleton with nice clothes on, which became Katrina. It was actually more a cartoon, caricature, like satire or something, and which later on became the icon of the Day of the Dead, which is like a little bizarre, but there you go. So that topic was completely aimed at that. So I had like basically a song on this album which is about death, you know, but and that's why it kind of sounds probably pretty dark. And then another song of mine, which is Tear the Walls Down, is just about breaking the ice sometimes between people, you know. That was just, I just got out of a relationship there. I guess it was not really awesome, and I just wanted to kind of make sure that it ends well. And I said, like, just tear the walls down, you know, just don't think too much about stuff. So yeah, those are the topics mainly. And then there's the closer, which is strangely enough aimed at or deals with Neil Peart when he passed away. There you go. I see
Big
that.
fan.
Yeah. And
tell me, okay, then tell me all about this.
Well, you know, I work with Alex Lifeson from Rush, you know, so
Right.
and he's on my sister album. He's also on the album before, and we also released a picture disc together. And I'm gonna end up right now on the 25th anniversary edition of his album Victor, which is coming out soon.
Oh wow.
So
that's crazy that that's been 25 years.
I know,
wow.
Isn't it? So so he said, like, if that song that we did, which also is on my sister, if he can include it as a bonus track on the Victor album. I thought, like, hell yes, this is great, absolutely. Anyhow, so we were working together, and I was working also on some of his songs, and there was like one piece he sent over, and it was unfinished, and he said, like, because we were just talking about sending some riffs along, and we started working on it, and I started writing a chorus. And then we decided to put that song away for a little bit, going like, oh, I don't know, let's concentrate on other stuff. Now, I sent that song already to Randy as well, and thought, like, maybe he has some input as well, you know, to see where, you know, this could go. And also Nick Bax, a dear friend of mine, he worked on that as well. But then it didn't really go anywhere, that song. It became like some sort of a clusterfuck there. It was like, I don't know, we just leave it aside for a while. However, that song now came to life as the closer, because when I was on the road with the Aristocrats, Randy took that chorus I wrote and the lyrics I wrote to that, which was there's no one here now, let's move on to the next town, and we watch the cities burn. And so he really liked that chorus. And the funny thing was, I wrote about something completely different. I didn't even know what I was writing about. I was just kind of putting words together, but all of a sudden it felt like post-apocalyptic or something. I thought, like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's a dark topic. So I kept those lyrics and kind of elaborated on them. And then Randy wrote a different part to the closer and aimed it, actually, because he kind of was hit hard when Neil Peart passed away. He's a huge Rush fan, you know, and I knew Neil. I knew him personally. I met him once, and dear friends of mine, Dawn Perry, are very close to him, and then obviously with Alex also. So I got a lot of information about this, first-hand information, especially from Dawn and stuff. So it was like, you know, very sad. And so Randy decided for some reason to write something about that. And because it was strange that we worked on the song that was based on a riff that Alex brought in first, Alex Lifeson. But then when I wrote a completely separate part, a chorus that didn't have anything to do with the song, we took that chorus, and which was already kind of lyrically heading into, you know, a topic like that, you know. And then Randy wrote, you know, the verses, and it became this really beautiful piece, which is almost like a requiem, you know. And we have oh my God, what's his name right now? You have to correct me then there, because I don't have. Randy invited us. The only guest musician we have actually on the album is Roger Waters' son, who plays piano on the closer.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah, and he is a great piano player. He's a really good piano player. If you know the song The Closer, then
yeah, that's beautiful. Beautiful piano
oh,
player.
cool, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And yeah, so that was that. So now we got into the whole lyrical area. Sorry if I derailed a little.
No, it's great. I mean, I'm so glad to now know this about the closer and the connection to Neil. It gives me a whole new appreciation when I listen to it next.
Oh yeah, thank you.
And just to go back to something a second ago, was it Tear the Walls Down?
Yeah.
You mentioned this breakup. Does that have something to do with the female voice that we hear at the end of the track?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's true. Yeah, it does. It was like, you know, just some snippets, you know, that were kind of, filmed when we were actually together, but, it was kind of funny, so, but it fit because it has like, this, it creates a vibe, again, I kind of, go more for almost like a score, film score, point of angle when I write. I want to kind of, put images inside of people's heads or kind of, mess with that, so, and especially, with those songs, Tear the Walls Down and Katrina, for example, well, Falling from Grace, maybe a little bit too in Voyager, but especially Katrina and the one you mentioned, aimed at also a little bit, or I purposely, let's put it that way, brought these songs in to create a little bit of a diversity and an opposite pole to what Randy brought in, because they break sort of a little bit the recipe up, it's like all of a sudden, because otherwise the songs would be like, too poppy or something. No, I didn't want to say that, but you know what I mean. We wanted to have like a little more diversity, and so I guess songs like, especially those mentioned, bring a little bit of darkness or a kind of cinematic move to it. But also Randy's song Fly has the same vibe, which is kind of strange. Completely written like absolutely from a different angle. We didn't even know that these two songs existed before they were brought to the table. So Fly and Katrina, for example, have almost like the same vibe, also like lyrically. So I guess, that really showcases how Randy and I are really, good for each other, like musically. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned Fly. That's one of the cuts that kind of got me, not on the first couple listens, but like the fifth listen. I was like,
yeah,
I keep coming back to this song. This is really a dense song with a lot going on in it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And sorry.
No, go ahead. No.
I was just going to say, I enjoy, I think there's a little bit of that in that song, but you mentioned this kind of like the, this idea of the cinematic approach. There's quite a lot of, for lack of a better word, soundscape things Absolutely. That are happening in this record.
Yes.
There's this kind of decay. I think it's at the end of Katrina.
Yeah.
There's some industrial sounds at the beginning of, what was it? I'm looking at my notes here. Falling from Grace.
Falling from Grace, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Those were the samples that I kind of used, to kind of build actually a pattern, a drum pattern, or like a rhythmical pattern out of street noises and machinery. So I kind of found it funny. I thought like, that's kind of weird. It was just, I don't know how that even happened, but I just envisioned to kind of build a pattern out of like door slams and drills and sledgehammers and kind of weird things, Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Now, you're a multi-instrumentalist. Obviously, people kind of know you primarily as a drummer, but I got to ask, if you were going to join a band and play something not drums for like a whole tour, what would it be?
Or guitar or keyboards.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You ever wanted to do that?
Oh, I did, with Eddie Jobson when I was in the band UK with him.
Oh, okay, that's right. I forgot about that.
I played some acoustic guitar there. Sometimes electric guitar, I guess, as well. No, I sometimes do these things, but rarely, with the Aristocrats, I played on and off some keyboard lines, here and there, but yeah, I'm enjoying, just being a songwriter with my instruments here and kind of doing that at home and just concentrating on being a drummer on stage. And
right. Well, you play such intricate stuff, and you make it look, to me, when I look at the, like, We'll Do It Live concert documentary, I look at that and just you look so effortless, and you look like you're kind of smiling and goofing off while you're playing this stuff that is insanely complicated.
Yeah.
So I got to ask you, drummer to drummer, what are the drumming things that challenge you? What are the things that maybe that you're still working on that you find to be?
Oh, there's always something to work on if you want to. That's the thing. So, it's not so much like, because I think I know the alphabet pretty well, so I can kind of express myself freely without thinking about the letters and the words, you know what I mean? So that works. But if I come up, let's say, with like an intricate pattern where I go like, cool, I would like to play, let's say, a double paradiddle with the feet and then play, a 13/16 on top of it. And so it aligns actually every other time, obviously then I would get to work. And then I go like, yeah, that's a challenge. I could just not break that out on the spot live and go like, cool, let's just do this. That's like a thing, where you have to get obviously into it. And then I kind of do this. It's like, these are kind of nice practice routines sometimes, right? So this is something obviously that you always can work on. to kind of, you know, tell your mind, or your mind tells you, go like, hey, how about try that? And then you go like, let's see how this works. So there's, if you want to practice, right, there's always something you can learn. I mean, you know, this is a never ending, it's a Pandora's box, isn't it? You know, yeah.
It is, yeah.
It's the beauty of it, you know.
That's why anytime I meet a drummer, I'm always asking, so what are you working on right now? You know, because everybody has some exercise, something that challenges them that they're, you know.
And I think it's great, isn't it? Because, you know, if you would be able to say it all and kind of, you know, translate everything you have in your head, I mean, there is no such thing as being perfect. And that's the beauty of it, because if the world was perfect, where would you go from there? Then you would do one album and you go like, wow, cool. And then you would have like enormous pressure to kind of create something else. So for me, it's always a learning curve, but it's also, I think, the beauty, not even sometimes necessarily a learning curve. Sometimes it's also just when you know what you're doing, not sounding, you know, not sounding the wrong way right now, but I think Randy and I, we know sort of where we're going with this. We know how to translate a good song or something, or how to make it good, that we're satisfied with it. Well, then what you think about is like not repeating yourself maybe and going different directions. That's the next beauty of it. That's what I do with my solo albums, where I go like, okay, look, I've already said this one before, you know, I kind of, you know, wrote a song that sounds like this on one of my other albums. So how about I go in a completely different direction? You know, I take like really joy, you know, experimenting with like just styles and different angles. Yeah.
Cool. I was going to ask you this at the very early at the beginning, but what were some of your favorite artists and bands coming of age?
Well, let's start from the beginning. I guess Queen is my favorite band. You know, Frank Zappa, obviously, Led Zeppelin, The Police, and Kate Bush, Judas Priest. Oh my gosh, Rush, obviously, I should mention those guys. And there are many more that I forget right now. Prince, I love Prince. Some of Miles Davis stuff is really cool too. Oh my gosh, you know, there's so many cool things, you know, that I, Kraftwerk. And then from the newer bands, I would say Battles. Battles is fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Especially the album Mirrored. And then also the new album they just put out is really good, I think. And then there's Field Music from England. They're actually really, really great. Two brothers. Yeah. I'm sure I'm forgetting something right now. I'm just kind of.
Oh yeah, we always do when we have.
We always do, right? There's many more great bands, obviously. You know, where I go like, oh my god, why didn't I mention that? You know.
So since you mentioned Rush and you mentioned Alex, let's talk about Rush.
Yeah, I'm always happy to talk about Rush. Yeah.
I'm an insane Rush fan, so I always like to talk. Any musician who's also into Rush, I got to have a little down about the band. When did you first hear them?
I first heard them when I must have been about 16 or 17 years old, and a friend of mine played me Moving Pictures because he wanted to play the song Tom Sawyer, and goes like, hey, we should cover this song, just try it at rehearsals. And I thought like, oh man, this is really good. I kind of, you know, listened to the song, and it didn't even strike me as, oh yeah, okay, I learned the song because we just have fun in the rehearsal space, and it's kind of just for kicks and learning it. But then I thought like, man, this song also really resonated with me. It really connected with me. I thought like, this is badass music and badass lyrics too. It's just like a great song. And I learned to love the entire album, and I transcribed the whole song. And the next thing I found out was how Neil really composed the drum parts.
Yes.
You could write the song out totally, going like, oh, cool. He plays like, you know, boom, 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 bum, bum. At the very end, a little change to what it, because
and they build, each one builds.
Like sometimes
that kick drum pattern, as he builds in that first section, that was so formative for me as a drummer to think about how I would compose parts.
That thing and stuff. Oh, it's great. Yeah.
I had a very similar thing. Like I heard Tom Sawyer at a roller rink, and I was just immediately transfixed and was like, I need to know who this is, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. And then I think the next album I knew, you know what? Now I have to say, was that the one I heard first, or was actually the first one I heard Grace Under Pressure? Because my father, I remember he had Grace Under Pressure at home, and I loved the album too. Distant Early Warning, great lyrics. I mean, that's the thing what people, you know, sometimes forget. No, well, they don't forget, I guess, you know, but sometimes what should be mentioned more, I think, that Neil Peart was such a great lyricist, right? So that is
absolutely.
Actually, yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Did you get to see them a few times over their years?
Yes, I did. I saw them on the Presto tour. And no, hang on. It was the Roll the Bones tour. It was the Roll the Bones tour. Yeah, that tour I saw. And then I saw them, what was it? The R30 tour, like 30 Years of Rush.
Oh, wow.
I saw that tour, yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for talking to me and geeking out about Rush for a moment.
Cool, man. Thank you so much for taking the time, all right?
All right. Take care, Marco. Nice to meet you.
Bye. Nice
Bye.
to meet you. Cheers.